अस्सलाम वालेकुम class and welcome back to your second lecture of week 7. हमने last lecture में बात की थी how protein allergy malnutrition affects drug deposition. आज हम बात करेंगे how obesity affects protein allergy malnutrition. And without much further ado, I am going to start off with the lecture. So, like I said last time, that you have seen in the last lecture that protein energy malnutrition actually affects the drug deposition in the same way obesity will also, because obesity is a chronic disorder with a complex pathophysiology. Pathophysiology means that when your physiological processes are associated with disease or energy, in such involving genetic and environmental factors, that they are altered because of the genetic or environmental factors, which ultimately impact the balance between energy intake and expenditure, meaning how much energy you are taking in and how much of output is produced. That will actually decide that where do you lie. And especially in obesity, it means that the energy intake is more than the energy output. Therefore, it will increase your body fat. It is associated with significant risk of morbidity and mortality, as well as increased healthcare cost and reduced quality of life. When your body weight is going to increase and your body levels of fat are going to increase, what will happen is that they're going to increase the risk of you having a disease, which is morbidity, or they will have the risk on your quality of life and ultimately death, which is mortality. So, how much of a altered situation or a disease affects the occurrence of a disease, or how long, how much fatal it is, that will also increase your healthcare cost. Meaning, obviously, जब आप बीमार होते हैं, for example, if somebody is because of obesity, we know that the person usually has heart disease or blood pressure or diabetes. So what will happen is that the cost of going to the doctor, getting your medicines, then going and getting your medicines and all these stuff, this is the increased healthcare cost. So it is going to be expensive. And then again, mentally, when you know you're suffering from a disease and there's an added cost of buying the medicines, going to the doctors, getting yourself checked, this is going to actually reduce your quality of life. Excessive body weight is best described by body mass index, an expression of an individual's weight relative to health in kilograms per meter squared. So what happens is BMI is an indicator that is used to calculate how much of excessive body weight one has, and because of that, it also is a very important or reliable source to see whether you're falling in the normal category or under category or the higher category. Altered gastrointestinal transit time and higher splenic blood flow may modify drug absorption, including a reduction in the bioavailability of drugs with high extraction ratios. When we talk about splenic blood flow, you have to understand it is relating to the viscera or the internal organs, especially those in the abdomen. So what happens is in the abdominal area, it is most affected, and what will happen that there's going to be a reduction of bioavailability of drugs, and because of that, there will be high extraction ratios. However, oral drug absorption, including drugs with high extraction ratios, may be no different in those of obese individuals. So, for example, if you take medications like cyclosporine, penicillin, midazolam, etc., what will happen? They're going to have no effect, or there's not going to be much effect on their absorption in the body, even if you're obese. Absorption from subcutaneous administration is not well categorized in the obesity because it is still under study. So this is what they've come up with. Now the distribution, lipophilic drugs are those drugs that are for the absorption fat is required. So these drugs have a higher volume of distribution in obese patients. Why? Because obviously these are only absorbed if in the presence of fats, and when in obese person, obviously the fat levels are high, so the larger volume of distribution is found, and they're largely distributed within the body and absorbed. While this is sometimes the case for example, bisoprolol and diazepam and thiopental, these are the medicines for which it works. It is not always so for cycloprolene, digoxin, and procuremamide. So what happens is these three medicines, for some lipophilic drugs, it works very well, and for some, it is actually not really common. Next, hydrophilic drugs are basically those drugs that are actually soluble in water. So may have a larger VD in obese patients. So these are the examples of drugs like aminoglycosides, ampicillin, cefamidol, cefotaxime, ciprofloxacin, and nafcillin. These are the medicines that have a higher volume of distribution, meaning they're widely distributed and absorbed by the body. and these medicines specifically are actually present in large volume distribution in obese patients. When we talk about the elimination of drugs, the elements that determine elimination of drug, whether through metabolism or excretion, may be altered in obese individuals. Like I said, that in obese individuals, the normal working of the body is altered. The functioning of the different organs is also altered because the certain level that the fat is needed in the body, and when it is accessed, it is going to limit the working of certain organs. Increased cardiac output, fatty infiltration of liver, portal inflammation and fibrosis, increased renal plasma, and creatinine clearance are all known to occur in obesity. So, if a person is obese, there's going to be a high cardiac output. It is most likely that they're going to suffer from fatty liver. There's going to be a portal inflammation, and in females, it actually leads to, and males as well, fibrosis, increased renal plasma. And the plasma in the renal will be increased, and creatinine clearance are all well known to occur in the obesity. You have to understand that fibrosis is also one of those terms specifically for females when it comes to their reproductive organs. But however, there is another case study that has come up that fibrosis is also when it occurs in the lungs. So the lung problem will also, because the oxygen output will be compromised. Additionally, adipose tissue itself must be considered metabolically active. Metabolism associated genes may be differentially expressed in obese compared with non-obese individuals. So the obesity phenotype may also be a factor in the drug deposition. So what they say is basically because of the metabolism levels are going to be actually altered as well. So some in some drugs may be easily digested, some will not be easily digested, some will need to work in combination with other drugs, and sometimes only one drug is enough. So at every individual level, it is different. So this is how obesity will actually affect the drug deposition. We can see that in obese people, usually what happens is when we talk about protein energy malnutrition, what will happen in protein allergy malnutrition, that sometimes drugs that they're taking in, they need to be monitored, because the metabolically the working of the body is altered. So what will happen is, because their metabolism is not working well, there will be an increased level of drug in their blood, and what will happen is that it will cause toxicity. However, in obese people, usually what happens, because there's a level of fat present in the body, what will they do is they are actually going to make a कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ मेडिसिन. अगर आप देखें जो ओबीस लोग होते हैं उनको एक मेडिसिन से काम नहीं किया जाता. whenever they are suffering from high blood pressure, there's always 2 or 3 medicines they need to take at the same time. So the number of medication increases in obese people, while in a malnourished person which is suffering from protein energy malnutrition, the level of drugs decreases because there is a chance of toxicity. In obese, there is no chance for toxicity. For the normal working of drugs, sometimes the drugs are increased. For example, if the weight gain is constant, the doctors will start adding on different drugs, a combination of drugs, so that the actual problem that the subject is suffering from is overcome. I hope today's lecture was beneficial. The notes of this lecture are already present on your Google Classroom. Please go through them, and if you have any question, you can easily ask me via texting me or asking questions either on the Google Classroom, or better off, you can ask on WhatsApp, where I will be available to you people 24/7. However, keep in mind that inshallah in future I am going to keep a designated time, and we are going to go through a live recording session. And when we do, you are more than welcome to ask me questions during that. Please utilize this time to study, because this is a very technical subject. It is very important that you people understand this topic and you go through these topics. And if there is any problem in understanding, please ask me. I'll be more than happy to help you out with extra material, or make even more videos, so that you can be able to understand the subject clearly. Because being a health professional, being a nutritionist, you are going to be dealing with patients who are going to be interacting with drugs, and you are going to be giving them a therapeutic intervention. So it is very important to understand these things right now on the very starting points. And inshallah, in the next video, I'll come up with a new topic. Until then, take care of yourself, stay safe, and inshallah, I'll see you guys soon. Allah Hafiz.